so you still want to be a paramedic. Hello again, my name is Ayaz. I'm a paramedic. I've been practicing for 5 years now. If you're here watching this video and you haven't seen the first video in this series, I recommend you do. I'll pop the link right here and make sure you go there and check that video if you already haven't. In this one, I'm going to share with you exactly what is required, bare minimum, to be even considered on a place on a paramedic program. Now, just briefly, in the last video, I talked about the two main ways of becoming a paramedic in the UK, through a university or through an ambulance service. Before I get into it, I just want to say thank you very much for visiting the channel. Thank you so much for the support on the first video as well. It really spurs me on and gives me that motivation to want to make more videos. So if you do get value in the content that I share, then please remember to press the like button. Make sure you subscribe and press the notifications bell, because as I say, every single week I will be uploading more and more videos. And the more support I get, the more content I'll release. I'm also on Instagram, so feel free to head on over and check out my content. The aim of this channel is to help to answer all your burning questions about how to become a paramedic, and it's my opportunity to share this information with all of you, and also a platform for me to share some of my passions and interests, some of them being things like anatomy and physiology and many other different topics that a lot of people have questions about. But don't worry, I got you. I'm going to spend my time on this series to answer all of them questions. Now let's get straight into it. As always, it's important to mention that there is going to be a little bit of bias coming from me, because I went through an ambulance service, and the two main ways are through uni and through an ambulance service. So if you find that I do give a little bit more information on the ambulance service route, the reason being is because personally I went through that route and of course I want to know a lot more about it. However, working on the ambulances for over 5 years, nearly 6 years now, I've spent a lot of time with students who come through the university route, and we have conversation, we share experiences, and this is what I've been able to put down on paper and compare the two routes. So let's have a look at the uni method. So with these lists, I've separated them out into academic requirements and non-academic requirements. So where it all begins, GCSEs, key stages in life. GCSEs are important. If you're in school and you're thinking GCSEs aren't going to be as important, or someone's told you that they're not very important, they're important. They play a role in absolutely everything. When you're going to be applying for a job or wanting to go into a certain career, the first thing they're going to want to know is what GCSEs you have. You need to have minimum 5 GCSEs. Now, some require a lot more than that, but for the paramedic science degree, most universities are going to want minimum of 5 A to Cs. And they would need to include sciences, maths and English. If you don't have GCSEs, if you're already past that point, there are equivalents that they will accept. Okay, the next academic requirement is going to be A levels or something of that equivalent. So with most universities, they're going to require 3 A levels. Some might do it on 2, but majority are going to want 3. And one of them A levels has to be something science-based. So that could be chemistry, that could be biology, that could be physics. And if you have an A level in general studies, unfortunately that won't be considered. And accumulatively, your A levels have to come up to 112 UCAS points. If you don't have A levels, BTECs are considered, but they have to be in a health related course. Or if you're an international student, you could acquire an international baccalaureate diploma, which is a 2-year international education program that gives you access to higher education within the UK. It's important to mention some exclusions at this point. So if you have qualifications that are non-science based, unfortunately they won't be considered. Also, if you have qualifications that come from being part of a uniformed service or public service, will not be considered. And non-academic requirements. So once you do qualify as a paramedic from university, you will need to have a C1 driving license. Now, a lot of students sometimes don't do their driving tests until after they finish university. But as a piece of advice from me, I would recommend that you make sure that you do have enough driving experience before you qualify, as driving is a big essential part of our job, and doing it safely makes a massive difference. We're already going to place ourselves in large amounts of risk driving on blue lights, but having that experience is vital for your safety. Of course, all universities aren't the same, and they won't have the exact same criteria, so it's important to have a look at the universities that you're interested in attending to do a paramedic science degree. You can access their websites and check out their prospectus and exactly what their entry requirements are. Now, a lot of people think that they can wait until clearing to get onto a course of paramedic science, but as you can imagine, paramedic science is a highly competitive course and there's not very often many clearing spaces available. So now let's have a look at the ambulance service route and what their minimum requirements are to be considered for the student paramedic role. So you're going to need 5 ATCs just like you do with the university route. The ambulance service require a minimum of 5 ATCs at a level A star to C or a 9 to 4, whichever one that you've got. Now this is where it gets a little bit different with the ambulance service. So the ambulance service don't require you to have 3 A levels, they require 1 A level. Now it's important to also mention that higher level qualifications do not supersede GCSEs. So GCSEs are the most important thing really, or anything of that equivalence. That's what the ambulance service must have. And now the non-academical requirements to consider you on the student paramedic course. You will need a manual driving license with a minimum of 3 points. If you do have points, it's important that you check your driving license and remember that although 3 points will last for 3 years, but they're actually on your driving license for 4 years, they still show for a year after that they've been taken off. Don't know why, but it's important that you know that before you do apply. And if you've had any drink driving related incidents, most ambulance services won't consider that, but that doesn't mean that there's absolutely zero chance. Just declare it on your application form and have that conversation with them. You're going to need to have a C1 driving license bare minimum before applying to the ambulance service, and that is because you need a C1 to do the blue light driving course, and once you've completed the first phase of the student paramedic program with the ambulance service, you do actually go out and work from an ambulance hub as a student paramedic or a trainee technician, and you will be required to drive the ambulance more times than you'll be attending anyway. With the ambulance service route as well, you do go through a series of assessments, and from them assessments they gauge who you are, what your reasons are for wanting to become a paramedic, and so you need to have a passion for healthcare. You do really need to want to do this job. It's not for everyone. It's very important that everyone understands that and knows that it isn't for everyone. The type of lifestyle that you adopt from becoming a paramedic or joining an ambulance service, working public service and working shift work, it isn't for everyone, and there is a lot of stresses that come with this job. So it's important that I stress that. Things that will be important when it comes to your application to the ambulance service for a student paramedic program, things like work history, reference history. So you must be able to provide 2 references for work experience or work that you've been doing. And they should come from your line manager or from a lecturer from your education institute. But you need 2 references. One has to be at least employment based, or if not, then they have to be academic based. There's also a work health screening assessment that's carried out by the DVLA. You'll need to carry out one of them. Just go on the DVLA website and find it from there. And lastly, you've got to have a clean DBS, quite self-explanatory really. So that's the enhanced disclosure and barring service, where they do a check into your criminal history. It's important to mention that this post, the student paramedic post, is going to be exempt from any Rehabilitation of Offenders Act. Again, the ambulance services, they need to have an efficient workforce, one that is actually saving lives, not putting lives in danger. So, unfortunately, if you have a history of criminal activity that has landed you on a register or on a rehabilitation of offenders program, unfortunately the ambulance service will probably not consider you. So it's important to declare any previous convictions or cautions on the declaration form. And the reason for that is you never know. You might think that what you've done in the past completely rules you out for this sort of career, but people change, and just declaring this information not only portrays honesty, but might give you that little bit of a chance with the ambulance service to have a discussion and explain that you're not a murderer anymore. No. You've got real, genuine reasons to be a paramedic. And if you pause the video in a second when I display the next slide, you'll be able to have access to that list and know if you have any equivalent qualifications. Okay, so for that video, that is it. Thank you very much for watching. If you got value from this content, please make sure you press the like button and you subscribe, because I'll be releasing a new video every single week. Now in the next video, I'm going to be talking about all the different assessments that you would go through, typically through an ambulance service or through a university before getting onto the course. This information is absolutely vital if you're already accepted onto a course or currently applying. When you have your interviews, you might get asked this information, and so it's important that you subscribe and tune into the next video. It might just get you that place as a student paramedic. Once again, thank you very much for watching. My name's Ayaz. I'll see you on the next one.